Okay, so this is slightly recorded out of sync because the previous recording didn't upload properly, so I've had to just go back. So at this stage you should have your input set up, you should be able to modify some player movement, you should have added controller input as well. So what we're going to do next is we're going to add a trigger that's going to increase the jump value. So this could essentially be like a pickup in game. We're going to do it two ways. We're going to do one in the level blueprint, and then we're going to do one as a standalone actor as well. So some of the stuff in that I've got in the project so far is kind of scripted a little bit past this in terms of the task list, and that's just because I obviously had an issue with the recording. So if we look at kind of what we're working with at the minute, so we've got kind of this in place, and we've got a jump in place as well, which is fine. So the next thing we want to do is we want to make like a little area here that the player can step into, and it's going to increase their jump value. So what I'm going to do to begin with is I'll do it in the level blueprint to start off with, and then we're going to do a standalone actor as well. So the first thing we need is a trigger. So we're going to go with a trigger box. We're going to place it in here in the game world. You're probably used from previous like tutorials and stuff like that and lectures. The first thing I'm going to do is set this to be not hidden in game. Okay, so with that selected, I'm just going to pop over here. I'm going to give a real name, real quick name as well. So we're going to call it jump trigger, and we're going to scale it a little bit too. So we're going to scale it in this direction and that direction. So I'm just going to change this to be selected viewport. So now we can see there's a trigger. It's sitting right in front of us. So from there, we're going to get a reference to this in our level blueprint. So I've got this selected. So I got jump trigger selected, and now I'm going to go into my level blueprint. I'm just going to dock this so it's a little bit easier to see. So from there, we're going to right click. Now, because I've got it selected, I can now go add an event for that trigger, add a collision, and on actor begin overlap. Okay. So I'm going to zoom in. So now we're just going to make sure that it works. We're going to do a quick print string, and we're going to say jump overlap, and we're going to hit compile, and we're going to hit play. Okay, so now when we step into this box, it should tell us, yep, there we go, we've done our jump overlap. So the next thing we want to do is we want to send a message to the first person character, which is our player controller. So everything that we do is happening inside this character here. So we need to get a message from this trigger box to that character so then we can access some information. So if we have a quick look in here, we'll check these, see what our jump is. So we're just going to have a look on our details panel. So our jump Z velocity is 1,200. So remember from the previous video, the way we did that was we just clicked on the character movement component. So now what we want to do is we want to do a thing called casting. So if I drag off here and I say cast to, and I know the name of it, first person character. If I hit compile now, it's probably not going to work. So it's going to give me an error. So it says, what's the object type? Now, because we're stepping into this trigger box, we are the object type. Okay, so we can go overlap an actor. Click that in there. So now, if this cast works properly, we'll get the jump overlap. So that basically means checking, is it the first person character? So this means in a game, in terms of gameplay setting, this couldn't be triggered by an enemy or by a bullet or anything like that. It has to make sure that it's the first person character. So you can see now it's not working. And the reason for that being is I've wired this up wrong. So I need to say to it, you know what, it's actually another actor. And that's a first person character. So we pop back in here. So now you see it's working. So it's looking and saying, right, is another actor overlapping with me? If so, is it the first person character? And if it is, go on to the next chain. So you can do like a little bit of practice here, and you can kind of, like, good practice would be you can put in here and say trigger failed But in an ideal scenario, we'll never see this. So from here, what we want to do is we want to set jump. So we can set max jump count. That's something that's inside our character. But we need to get access to this. Okay? So we need jump Z velocity. Okay? So we can get character movement here. And then from there, we can drag off and say jump. And we know it's called Z velocity. So we can get it or we can set it. And we want to set it. So from there, if this goes through okay, we're going to set it to be, we'll go with something silly so we know if it works. So if we pop back in here, so we can see how high I can jump there. If I step into this box, we can see it's definitely working. So that's kind of acting now like just kind of like a pickup. So all that's happening is when we step into the box, it's making sure it's the player, just checking that overlap for us. It's then getting the movement, the character movement for that player, and it's setting the velocity. So we could do this a different way if we wanted. So we could get the velocity here if we wanted. So we could say get jump Z, and then we could say add. So we could do a float plus a float, and we could add like 100 to it, and then set it. So now it's no longer going to get set to 3000. It's going to take what we are, so 600. 1,200 to begin with, and every time we step in the box, it's going to let us jump like a little bit higher. So if we were to play this now, so we're in there. But what's happening now is because I'm leaving the overlap and coming back in, every time I land back in, it's going to increase my jump by that value. And you can see we're gradually getting higher and higher because every time we land in, our value is going up. So a good way to kind of test that, if we wanted, instead of doing this jump overlap, we could ask it to print string what the jump value is. So we pop back in. So 1,300, 400, and you can see it's just going up step by step. So that's it scripted inside the level blueprint. So that's fine, it works okay, but that logic is very much only in this level. So the way that we would do it for a standalone actor is we want to make a new blueprint class. So right click, blueprint class. We want an actor. We're going to call it jump boost. Now I'm going to drop this in the scene so I can see what's going on with it. And then I'm going to double click so I can work on it. So now we're inside this standalone actor. So we've got our viewport, construction script, and an event graph. So the first thing we need is exactly what we had in our previous one, but we're going to look for a box collision. We're going to scale this as well. And the reason I dropped it in the viewport was if I was to undock this and work in here, you can see that it gets updated in real time, so we can have a look at it. So from there, I'm going to do the same thing I did. I'm going to make sure it's not hidden in game. Now the difference is now, I've accidentally renamed that to be R. So box. So now in the event graph, when I pop over, if I scroll down here on the right hand side, you've noticed we've got these events that we can already add. So we can go on component begin overlap. We want to do the same as what we did. So cast to first person character. Get the movement. get character movement, and then we want to get the jump Z. We want to add, and then we want to set it. So we'll go set jump V. Okay. And I'm going to give this, we'll go 200 so it's a little bit more obvious. Compile, and we'll go play. So you see now it's working fine. Now the difference is this here is quite easily duplicated. So if I close this one, so we're inside the jump booster. We'll do a print string here. And we'll print that value. And what I'm going to do is whenever I leave the overlap, so I'm going to add a different type of collision here. So I've got my box collision selected. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to say on end overlap. I want to duplicate this. Control W. And the next thing I'm going to do is destroy. If I could type it properly. Destroy actor. I'm going to leave this as self. So what's going to happen is whenever I step into this box, it's going to set the thing for me. It's going to set my jump. But whenever I step out, it's going to get deleted. So I can only do it once. What that means is we could have multiple of these across our level. So I'm going to step in. 1400 is my jump. I'm out of it now. I'm out of that one. It's gone. And then I'm out of that one. And it's gone. So that's a real quick introduction into how we can do something in a level blueprint as opposed to doing it as a standalone actor. But the premise is the same. We've got our overlap, our collision. So in this case, it's a box collision. In this case, it's a box trigger. We're checking, is it the first person character? If it is, we're getting the character movement. Then out of the character movement, we're grabbing the jump velocity. We're setting it. And then we're doing a little bit of debug at the very end. So that should hopefully kind of help you complete the tasks for this week. And in the next video on the list, I'll go through how to record your tasks and upload them to Blackboard.